No, but you had recently a song with Martin Garrix.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool to, and I think it's also like, because I've been following you then for a few years, and then seeing that big of a collab, it's like, wow, that's recognition for all those years.
Yeah.
Does it feel like that as well?
Definitely. I can definitely say that I've come, like I've like a few times in my career, I've come to the point where I thought, this is not working. This is just not working out, because I'm investing so much money, so much time, so much of everything to be able to make a living out of what I love to do, you know? And ever since those things started to happen, it felt like, oh wait, I can actually do this. I can actually pull this off, and it's a crown on your work. And I'm convinced that I'm not there yet. I will always say that, because I'm never fully satisfied. I think every creative kind of, you know, has that part in them where they just, you know, they always want something better, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because you tend to like lose track of what you have already established in over the years. But it's definitely something that puts a crown on the work. Yeah.
Could you tell us more about your path towards that collab? As in, how does such a thing come to reality? Like, do you just bump into the guy on the street, or how does this work?
Well, I'm usually not a guy that wants to force himself up to people. I feel like you're gonna show what you're worth by showing it and doing it, instead of like selling yourself. Like, it's a good thing to sell yourself, but I think in these kind of things, it's just do what you love to do the most, and then eventually you will, you know, you can take the benefits from it, and it will happen a natural way. I've never been a person of planning, and I've never really had a plan of how I was like supposed to, you know.
But you got out of your attic, or where you ever started. You got out of there, so there's a part of you that is that like kind of extrovert, like, hey, I want to show my stuff.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Yeah. I mean,
how
it
did
is
that
necessary.
evolve? Yeah.
I think just by doing it more and more and every day. So I started, basically, I just want to give a little shout out. I started out with Sam. He's kind of like picked me up as
Sam Veld.
No, Sam Bombeek he's called. He's popping off right now. He's doing an amazing job. Super proud of him.
Sam BE.
Yeah, Sam BE.
On his Spotify, it's also the BE is behind his name. Actually.
Yeah,
it's part of his artist name. So you'll find him easily.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. But I was posting videos on Instagram by doing covers of just well-known songs, and on my bed with like the AirPods with the cable still. It was that time. And then he messaged me saying like, hey, I really like what I'm hearing. Have you ever written a song before? I was like, no, not really. I would like to try. And then he kind of like took me under his wing and showed me the kind of like the steps you have to take in the music industry. And then I started working with him more and more. He started to place me in sessions with his direct colleagues, and he had friends that also were into music and said like, hey, we need vocals. Okay. And he was like, hey, I know the guy, you know, I work with him. Probably you could work something out. Yeah. And then you start doing it, and whenever you have fun in something, you don't really think about what you're doing. I think it's like, hey, I just want to have fun today. I'm gonna write a nice song that I like, you know, that eventually is the most important part, I think, because then eventually the audience is going to hear that. Yeah. Obviously, when I hear back to the tracks that I made in the beginning, I think like, oh shit, it sounds terrible. But you need to start somewhere, and then eventually you'll be able to learn along the way, and then you create this kind of motivation for yourself to really make those steps. I've never really forced myself into making those steps. It just happened, basically. Doesn't take away like that I put hard work and everything, because it now may sound like, oh, I just did it, and it's like, that's not the case. But it's just it's between finding a fine balance between having fun and also willing to sacrifice some things to be able to do those things on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, having fun isn't the same as not working. So you can work really hard and have fun at the same time. So,
and what is one of those sacrifices that you mentioned? Because you mentioned like as an artist, it mostly starts out as fun, right? It starts out as a hobby.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, gradually, but suddenly, it becomes serious, as in it's your job.
Yeah.
So what are some of those sacrifices you feel you kind of have to do every now and then to kind of maybe take out some of the fun because you have to make money? Or I can imagine that's the thought there. But
yeah, there's multiple things. I think it's mostly, I think it's personal, like personal business. So, for example, I was on the verge of starting and study in Rotterdam, and like a few weeks before the school year was about to start, I was like, I don't know if I want this. I was not about to do something that has anything to do with music. I've never done any education in music. So my music theory is not present.
not at all.
Not at all. No, well, I can hear stuff and I know how it should sound like, and those kind of things. But I don't know where the C is on a keyboard. Let's say that. So for everyone that wants to become a songwriter, you don't have to have all the knowledge in the world to become creative.
There's a lesson in there.
Definitely,
for
definitely.
People,
But I was about to start that, and then I really had my doubts about, do I want to spend the next 4 years following a study that I don't really, I think is fun, but not really my passion in life. Is that something I'm willing to do? And that choice was really hard though, because there's different elements. Also kind of like a social pressure, because you're expected to follow this study, otherwise you don't have your papers, and you don't really, you fail basically. That's how I was seeing it at first, and I was kind of scared that my parents thought the same way, like you should follow a study and you should, not that they made that impression to me, but it was just like around me everyone's following a study and everyone's doing that, and I was like, oh, if I'm not doing that, does that mean I'm dumb, or does that mean I'm making the wrong decisions in life? And but then I said, look, let's just go for it, and let's just get rid of that study and just follow my dream.
What helped you to make that decision? Because I've been there as well, and I think many of us, as in many artists at a young age, are at that point. What helped you to make that decision? Because for me, what really helped was the fact that my parents supported me, or at least said to me, like, you're okay with this, like you can do it. But if we see you being lazy for one day, you'll go back. Right? So they supported me, but they also gave me a hard not
we'll support you, but if you're in debt, good luck.
We're not gonna pay you.
You'll sleep on the street.
They were really like, if you think this is possible, then we'll support you. But we do want to see you work for it. So that really helped me, because as you said, the peer pressure, the society pressure, all the beliefs that you've built during the years, because everybody does it. So you kind of feel like the black sheep in there, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What was it for you? Like, what was it for you that kind of pushed you over that, to take the leap?
Yeah, I think, let's say my parents have never spoken out of saying like, hey, if you do something in the creative industry, that's bad, you should do something in finance or whatever. Like, that's not how my parents are. They have always been supported, and they still are super supportive, so that's great. I just thought that they might think that because my friends' parents had those things, a couple of my friends, and which is also, like it's different in every household. I think, like, it's just a way of being. How do you say it?
Parented.
Yeah. It's such a huge influence. I had a friend who was a great drummer. I've told this story a couple of times, I think, on the podcast, but
doesn't sound familiar. So let's
very good drummer. And then I was making music. And it's like, I'm making music, and we were just talking about the future. I don't really know. And he said, yeah, but music's always going to be a hobby. So maybe we were talking about, what do you want to do? I'm like, yeah, maybe music. And he's like, yeah, but that's hobby. Like, my drumming is hobby. And I was like, I just didn't understand that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, yes, but also it could be way more. Let's see first. But that kind of, that's one little like different thing that we then, I guess, as creatives have different from other people. We just kind of broke free of like the, just by thinking, but what if, and I think that's such a little
Yeah, but that's the
detail.
thing, like the society pressure, because you've been kind of primed your whole life that the way how it should go
Yeah,
is you go to school, you get your papers, you get a job, and you die.
Yeah.
Like that pathway is primed in you from the day you were born. And if you don't have parents who are kind of open-minded and feel like there's more paths, like that this is not the only way,
Yeah.
then it's very hard to break through that. Because, as I said, for me, of course, at that age, your parents still have a lot to say.
yeah,
So it's a lot of pressure if your parents don't agree with you on your life decision, because eventually it could be a life decision, right? For me, it was, and for you probably as well.
Yeah. I can still remember that call very well. I was standing at a bus station, and I was like, that thought was running through my mind for a lot of days already, and I was like, shit, how am I gonna tell my parents this? It's like, oh, they're gonna be so disappointed. And then I can remember it very well. I called my dad, and I said, yeah, Dad, I just about the study. I'm so scared to tell you this, but it's like, I don't know if I want to do this,
Yeah.
And he was like, good. That's good, boy. Yeah. He was like, really, like, we already knew that. We already knew that you were kind of made for, like, not like
standard thing.
Yeah, the standard thing. We always knew you were creative. We always knew you were gonna do eventually something in something that had to do with like creativity, if it's music or art or whatever. They were already convinced that I was basically not doing that study. So that to come back to your question, what made it like what made you want to get to that point? I think that phone call was a big one, because like after that phone call, that I felt like this big relief of, oh, there's no pressure on my shoulders. There's no one expecting me to make a choice or to do something I don't want.
So it was the parents as well. Like
I think it has a big influence on it, but also just because I've always felt like creativity is where my heart lies, and up till that point I wasn't really like, I was making music, but not on the on the daily basis that I'm doing now. So but I felt like there is something there that I really love about making something, and
so interesting to make decisions based on your gut feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like rationally, the whole decision might not make sense.
Yeah. I think in general it's unnatural. It is natural, but it became unnatural because of how society worked now, like with all those pressures. Because I think it's a natural thing to be like,
it's super
ooh,
natural.
I shouldn't go into that cave, way back.
Yeah.
And
now it's like, hey, everybody's going into that cave, so let's go. And then it's kind of funny how but that's why with all the distraction now, it's so in our lifetime. I'm not meaning social media, but just let's say the last couple 100 years, all the distractions. It's so hard to just listen to your gut feeling, like even about collaboration, about should I do this, simple decisions.
If you look back at from that moment on, you kind of made the decision to go all in on this.
Yeah.
If you go back and think about that period in time, like how many decisions do you make on your gut feeling?
Oh, I make them all my decisions are gut feeling based. And sometimes that's also a negative part of, doing before thinking. That's, that's a thing that I,
doesn't sound familiar at all.
No, apparently not. No, but it's, I rarely really think about doing something. As long as my gut says like, hey, this is something you should do, then I just do it, and then I will face the consequences afterwards, how big they are, like I don't really mind. That's just my way of living, and it's always been just like I said. I've never had planning or never had
I guess that's such a good way of thinking, as long as you're doing something, as long as you're not lazy, and as long as you're not expecting too much out of something. I think that's such a good way to live.
One of the most important things, I think I even posted something yesterday on Instagram about this. Like one of the most important things in life in general is to stay in motion, right? Freezing and not making a decision at all. So overthinking stuff, waiting until you achieve the perfect 10, over the 7.5. that's the mistake you shouldn't make in life, because you want to stay in motion, because that's where you discover new things, where opportunities come onto your path. You want to make decisions. That's just scary because you never know how they end. And like the cave you mentioned, you never know what's in the cave, so you don't go in.
Yeah.
But that's where the magic is. Like, just make decisions, see where it takes you, and adapt along the way.
Yeah, I kind of I have a name for it. Just I don't know if it's a real thing or not, and it's like literally translated. I call it learning money. So it's kind of like I don't want to go into detail here because then I'll probably be in trouble. But I once did a commercial and I got a fee for like doing a song.
Yeah.
And then later I found out from a guy that was also in like doing vocals on commercials, and he said like, damn, you should have, you got that for that assignment, you should have gotten this, and it was like it was like so huge amount of money, and I was like, okay, but I already signed the contracts and everything. He was like, that's a lesson. And I call it learning money because it's like you still get something from it, but you could have got more.
But that's also like the thing where you signed it, you were happy with it.
Yeah.
You should still be almost just as happy with it, even knowing after, like, yes, in the future you'll adapt now. You'll change it. But at least you made that choice, and while you made the choice, you were happy. So then,
and that mistake brought you to the next level. And made you aware of the fact, like, hey, I can actually make more.
The industry is filled with money-hungry assholes.
But that's the thing. As in, that's the whole thing of artist coaching. Eventually, the whole thing about life experiences is that's the only way how you really learn, right? You can't really get this from a book.
I liked there's some guy came into my algorithm on TikTok, and he's like artist, like replying to artists, and he's like, the way to write great songs and the way to produce great music or create things is like go out and live life. So that's also like a thing where stay in motion, and like you gotta live life, like keep doing stuff, and also go out. Just like if you're a beginning producer right now.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, hello,
I am
you
Jay.
there.
No, but like, don't only sit in your little attic and work on music. Of course, that's going to be 90% of the time, also because you love it. But sometimes a friend asks, "Hey, let's go to this place and do it." Sometimes you gotta do different stuff and do stuff that's just life. That's also. I think sometimes people forget with big artists, like we're people, and like sometimes people are surprised. Like I ran into someone who recognized me in the supermarket in the town where I live, and he was like, you could just see on his whole, and he's like still quite young, but he was so surprised of like, you live here, and like, and I was just trying to say like, yeah,
are you Ed Sheeran?
I live. He's like, I was like, I live somewhere and I do groceries, and I'm here with my daughter, and he's like, just so like, I couldn't believe it, and it's like, but you have to go out and do groceries and do things, have kids and whatever, and then because that's one question I had as well, like how much of your writing is influenced by your life, or do you go more about everything, or how does that do you take things into your music?
Yes. It's sometimes, let's say. I think it also depends on what kind of genre you write for. So, for example, K-pop is very kind of like childish sometimes. It could be like, it also has its different kind of like sounds.
Is K-pop in English?
Well, I write it in English, and then there's like a lyricist in Korea, and they translate the song, and then they get like 10% or something in that direction. But that's like not a very good place to really ventilate and say like, hey, this is how I've been feeling about life. Dance kind of has the same thing for me. I feel like a lot of DJs that would ask for a vocal, they're not really into like the very deep kind of vocals about like very heavy stuff, and that's why I like to pour my heart out in my own music, which is not online yet, but I'm working on it in the background. It's going to be out soon. That's my own project. That's more pop. So that's more radio pop based. And that's just my music. And there's no one that can tell me, hey, this is not what I want it to be, it's what I want it to be. And obviously you got like labels that would judge on base of like what kind of what a sound the song is sounding like, and those kind of like the objective kind of things. But in the subjectively, it's about you like explaining what you are feeling or what you're going through in life. And so it depends on what kind of genre you write your songs in. But to give an example, the latest track I did with GARRIX, Gravity, I actually wrote it like 3 years ago, together with Max Adrian. Is a really good producer from Germany. He lives in Amsterdam, and that was in a time where I was feeling like very down. Like I was in like one of the lowest points of my life ever, and we went into the studio and then we said like, hey, I've got something that I need to get off my chest. I've been feeling this way and I just need to translate it into music. And we made it. And then 3 years later, we said to each other, we're going to make a GARRIX song today. That's actually what we said. And then eventually we pitched it and it didn't like it. His team said like, this is not for him. And, so we thought, okay, that happens. Eventually, in miraculous way, it got like with him through a different guy, Sam Vox, actually, where I did the song with as well. And GARRIX told me like I was having goosebumps in the gym, and that's, I think, because I poured out my heart into that song, and you can probably hear it a bit. I think so, if I may say so, but.